بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين. So last night we began our series, Alhamdulillah. For those who might not have been here last night, I'm just going to very quickly go over what we're going to be after, what we're going to be covering these nights, inshallah, if Allah gives us tawfiq. I said last night that when you want to discuss Muharram, discuss Ashura, discuss Imam Hussein and his movement, sometimes you can base your judgment on whim, conjecture, uncertainty. Something just sounds right. It sounds like Imam Hussein, so I'll say it. You know. Sometimes no, you have access to the material. You have access to some material that's going to help you base your judgment on yaqeen, on certainty, on knowledge. To be able to speak about Imam Hussein's movement, to be able to make an analysis, an accurate analysis of why he did what he did, the first thing that anyone has to do who would like to, embark on such an endeavor is to at least have somewhat of an understanding of what the Imam said. Anyone out there who begins a movement makes sure to let everyone know what that person's mission statement is, what their vision and goal is. Imam Hussein a.s. is going to change all of history. If he's going to change all of history, he wants to make sure that his sacrifice will not go to waste and is not in vain. So for sure, he's going to be making statements, lots of statements. From the moment the movement begins, all the way till the end of his mission and his job, once his job is done, which is the climax, the peak of the story, the Shahada of Abu Abdullah. So what we're doing these nights is we're going through as much as we can of what he has said on his journey from Medina all the way to Karbala. So that later on, as we grow older, especially for the younger ones, when we want to think about, we want to discuss, we want to argue for Imam Hussein, we're not mistaken in our judgments. Our judgments are based on true knowledge. So it begins with the sayings of our beloved Imam. And that's what we're going to be covering these nights. Last night we covered 3 of those sayings and the context of each one, the stories behind each one. And those who were here, as you noticed, there's a few things that were very, very important that we covered. Moving on. The 4th thing, or the 4th saying of the Imam that we want to cover is like this. He says, Allahumma إن هذا قبر نبيك محمد وأنا ابن بنت نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله وقد حضرني من الأمر ما قد علمت اللهم إني أحب المعروف وأنكر المنكر وأسألك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام بحق هذا القبر ومن فيه إلا اخترت لي ما هو لك رضا ولرسولك رضا. So just like last night, and we're going to do this every night inshallah, I read the Arabic first, we get into the story, and then we understand why these words were said by the Imam. Last night we covered one of those instances where the Imam visited the grave of his beloved grandfather, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. And as I said last night, they say that many occasions after he was summoned by the governor of Medina to give bay'ah to Yazid, many occasions took place where he would go to the grave of the Prophet. But history has only recorded 2 of these. 2 of these visits to the grave of the Prophet have been recorded. Last night we covered one of them. Tonight we're going to cover the next one. And it's interesting how the Imam and the Imams, they would always remind the people of their kinship and their close relationship with the Prophet. It's very important because, as you all know, whatever relationship one has with the Prophet is a medal of honor. If you're a Sahabi, a companion of the Prophet, meaning you met him, you were with him, you helped him, this itself is a medal of honor. If you're one of those who attended the Battle of Badr, you're one of the Badriyun, one of those 313 that fought with the Prophet in Badr, that's a medal of honor. Any relationship with the Prophet is a medal of honor for the people of back then. Let alone if you're the son of the Prophet. So the Imams, they wouldn't really emphasize so much on the fact that they're Imams, because the people didn't accept that. They didn't understand that. What they would emphasize on was a general concept that everyone agreed on, that they have the closest relationship with the Holy Prophet, that no one else can get any closer than them to the Holy Prophet. Alright. So that's why, like for example, Imam al-Rida, our 8th Imam, when Ma'mun forces him to travel all the way from Medina to Khurasan. Yeah, have you noticed? Our Imams are either buried in Medina or Iraq, but then all of a sudden you have one Imam that's all the way in the end, far northeast of Iran, all the way out there. What's he doing there? He was forced to travel there because the Khalifa of his time was there and wanted to keep an eye on him, of course. That's what the Shia school believes. And so he summoned Imam al-Rida. Imam al-Rida went there. The point I'm trying to make is that Imam al-Rida, when he's forced to go, what does he do? He keeps going to the grave of the Prophet, coming back. Going to the grave of the Prophet, coming back, to let everyone know that, hey, I was the son of this Prophet. My relationship and my kinship to the Prophet is unmatched in my time. This is a medal of honor that no one else bears. In other words, you don't kill the son of the Prophet. That's something everyone understands. Whether you believe in Imamah, whether you don't believe in Imamah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which school of thought you're from. The Imam leaves no excuse for anyone. If anyone's hand is going to be stained with my blood, there's going to be no excuse for them. I'm not going to let my blood go to waste. So now this is the second account where the Imam, he's going to the grave of the Prophet one last time before he sets out for Mecca from Medina. So they say he spends the night next to the grave of the Holy Prophet in dua, in prayer, worship, tears. And he says these lines that I read. O Allah, verily this is the grave of your Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family. And I am the son of the daughter of your Prophet, and that of the decree that you know of, O Allah. There's a decree that you know of. This decree has now befallen me. The time has come to change history forever. O Allah, indeed I love good. As I said last night, Allah already knows all of this. As I said last night, the Prophet already knows all of this. So why is he saying all of these there? So history will remember that this is the person they killed. He says, O Allah, indeed I love good and despise evil. And I ask you, O possessor of majesty and bounty, by the right of this grave and the one buried in it. It's interesting. He says, by the right of this grave and the one buried in it. It shows that there's two things here we have. The grave itself and the one who's buried in the grave. Two things that have high status here. Of course, the grave holds high status because of the one buried in it, but at the same time, it's interesting how the Imam separates these two. I ask by the right of this grave and the one buried in it that you choose for me that which entails your satisfaction and the satisfaction of your Prophet. So, as I said last night, it was all a matter of responsibility. It was all a matter of responsibility. The Imam sees that the only thing that entails the satisfaction of his Prophet, the satisfaction of Allah, is responsibility. So he says, I made my decision, oh Allah, I'm not going to stay here next to this grave. I'm going to make my journey. Why? Because satisfaction of the Holy Prophet and your satisfaction is what I'm after. Sometimes you're next to Karbala, but you're so far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes you are so far from any religious site. Any of the religious sites out there. You're so far from them, but you are so close to Allah. Why? Because the only criteria for Allah is what? To be close to Him. His obedience and His satisfaction. If Allah is dissatisfied, even if the Ahlul Bayt are satisfied, it's not going to do us good. Of course, the satisfaction of the Ahlul Bayt is in line with the satisfaction of Allah always. But the point I'm trying to make is Allah is the end goal. And the Imam knows that. So he is speaking to Allah here, and he's making his movement an excuse to get closer to Allah and to bring the satisfaction of Allah to himself. Recite salawat. Recite another salawat, please.
Brothers and sisters, if we can just all move forward, especially the sisters, and also if the sisters can please stay quiet, that would be very good, inshallah. And the brothers as well, but all of us, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Moving on to the next saying of our Imam. There are lines here that now the Imam, it's as if he's reciting musibah for himself. And I'll explain the story after I read it. He says, Ya Ummah, wa ana a'lamu anni maktulun madhbuhun dhulman wa udwana wa qad sha'a Allahu azza wa jal an yara harami wa rahti musharradin wa atfali madhbuhin ma'surin مقيدين وهم يستغيثون فلا يجدون ناصرا. Out of the wives of the Holy Prophet and the Ummahatul Mu'mineen, according to the Shia school of thought, Bibi Khadija, Lady Khadija holds the highest rank, without a doubt. And I don't think any school of thought has a difference of opinion here. After her though, the Shia school believes, according to a hadith that Shaykh al-Saduq narrates, the second in line is Salama or Salama. Salama is the highest, holds the highest rank according to hadiths after Lady Khadija. Who is she? Salama, why does she have such a high rank? Salama has such a high rank because she began to defend the Ahlul Bayt when no one else was willing to defend the Ahlul Bayt. She was next to Fatima al-Zahra on her deathbed, taking care of her needs. She was the one writing a letter to Aisha telling her, don't do what you're doing in the battle of Basra, the battle of Jamal. Telling her that what you're doing is wrong, you should stay in your home. And of course Aisha said, no, I have to go because there are two groups of mu'mineen that are going to fight each other. I have to solve the problem. She even, they say, writes letters to Muawiyah in the battle of Siffin, and she, they say, is the one who lives the longest out of the wives of the Holy Prophet. Alright. Now Salma or Salama, she's the one also that they say is the one who raised Imam Hussein to an extent. She was there raising him. Yes? Because when she's married to the Prophet, she's like a mother to Imam Hussein and Imam Hassan. Now there's one story here I'm going to read to you regarding Salama, and you can tell that she was a very high individual because of this. The hadith goes like this, and this is a hadith, or we have a set of hadiths in this regard that both Shia and Sunni have narrated. It goes like this, that it says the Prophet was in the home of Salama once. So he tells her, I don't want anyone to enter upon me right now. In other words, close the door, lock the door, I don't want anyone to come in. فَجَاءَ الْحُسَيْنِ. Then Hussein, the little Hussein, he comes in. Now it's interesting. وَهُوَ طِفْلٌ, and he was very small, he was a young child. فَمَا مَلَكَتْ مَعَهُ شَيْئًا حَتَّى دَخَلَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ. She tried to stop him from going in because the Prophet had told her, don't let anybody in. Anybody means everybody, right? So even Imam Hussein is not allowed in. But it says here that she wasn't able to stop him. Somehow he got away. He went in and entered upon the Prophet. فَدَخَلَتْ سَلَمَةَ عَلَىٰ أَثَرِهِ. So she's following him, running after him. She walks into the room too, only to see that Imam Hussein is sitting on the chest of the Prophet. But the Prophet is not happy apparently. He's crying and weeping, shedding tears. وَإِذَا فِي يَدِهِ شَيْءٌ يُقَبِّلُهُ. There's something in the Prophet's hands that he is kissing. He might be smelling it, kissing it, rubbing it against his face. And he says, Ya Salama, inna hada Jibra'il. Jibra'il, the angel. Jibra'il is here and he is telling me of something. He is telling me that this child of mine, مَقْتُولٌ وَهَذِهِ التُّرْبَةِ الَّتِي يُقْتَلُ عَلَيْهَا, that your son will be killed. And this soil is the soil that he will be killed on. So in other words, Jibra'il from the heavens, or from Karbala, brings some of that soil to the Holy Prophet. That this movement, that this sacrifice of Imam Hussein was so great, subhanAllah, that before this has even happened, this soil is blessed as if. So the angel Jibra'il has brought the Holy Prophet this soil. Now, as I said, we have many ahadith like this. It can't be denied. Both Shia and Sunni have said this. And there's nothing in it that will bother some of other schools of thought regarding this. Nothing special in it. We all believe in this. So the Prophet gives this to Salama. He doesn't give it to anybody else. He gives this soil to Salama. فَدَعِيهِ عِنْدَكَ. Keep this with you. فَإِذَا صَارَتْ دَمًا فَقَدْ قُتِلَ حَبِيبِي. When this soil turns red, that means my son Hussein has been killed. And they say she kept this until then. And the hadith goes on. The hadith goes on, but the part that I needed was this part. Salama has a very high status. So now when she hears of the journey of Imam Hussein, you think she's going to be happy about that? Of course not. She's going to be very upset about that. So she comes to Imam Hussein. She says to the Imam, pleading to him, don't grieve me with your departure to Iraq. Verily I have heard your grandfather say that my son Hussein will be killed in a land called Karbala in Iraq. And now you're moving in that direction. Well, he was going towards Mecca first. So she fears that maybe this is that movement. Maybe this is that journey that he's not going to come back from. Don't grieve me. Now the thing is that it's interesting because she knows that it's going to eventually happen. This is something that Allah has willed, and we'll talk about that. The willing of Allah. It's something that Allah has willed. She knows that. But you can't just sit there and be quiet about it either. So it's as if she wants to get this off of her chest that, oh Hussein, you're the only one left from the 5 members of the cloak. Don't grieve me with your departure. But of course she knows that if this is the time that Imam Hussein has to leave, it's over. And so in a situation like that, you really don't know what to do. The same situation that Imam Hussein is in with Lady Zainab and his daughters and his women when he's departing for the last time from the tents of Karbala to go and be murdered. What can you do? These are one of those hard tests of Allah that turn people to gold. Now, this is where the Imam says, Ya Ummah, O mother, my mother, O mother. And I know that I will be killed and slaughtered oppressively and out of animosity, dhulman wa udwana. I know that. Allah has willed to see my women and my children and my people scattered and estranged, made prisoners and in chains, pleading for help while they find no one to answer their call. He says, I know that, O mother. This is something that has to happen though. He says, Inna Allah qad sha'a azza wa jal an yara harami. Sha'a, Allah's will is that all of this happens. And we'll talk about that a little bit, why God is willing that. So she doesn't know that the Imam, she knows the Imam will be killed eventually. The Prophet has told her. But she doesn't know that the Imam has to go on this journey because this isn't a normal journey. This is a journey that will never end, brothers and sisters. It's a journey that is to continue after the Shahada of Imam Hussein is to continue. As time continues, as time extends, the journey of Hussein continues till today. This is what others didn't know, but Imam Hussein knew. Until the final Mahdi returns, and it relieves us of this pain. Of course, that's not why He's coming, all of why He's coming, but that's one of the things that I've heard ulama say, that till the coming of the final Imam, this journey has to be upheld. This journey has to be kept alive. Because that which is protecting Islam now, real Islam, is the blood of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. This journey is a non-ending journey, never ending. So now a question that comes up though, because we get this question sometimes, is that, okay, Inna Allah qad sha'a. Sometimes our younger ones, they have a question, they have this question that, why does Allah want bad for some people, especially the loved ones, the ones He loves? Inna Allah qad sha'a, as if when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating Imam Hussein, He says, okay, I'm creating him for bala and hardship. As if hardship is the purpose of their creation. To that extent. Because it says Allah wants this. Allah has willed that this happens to me. So we're going to dissect this a little bit and see if there's any answer to this. We have I need your attention here, we have two types of willing, two types of irada, two types of mashi'ah, they call it. Sha'a comes from mashi'ah. We have two types of willing when it comes to Allah. One willing and one will of Allah is, they call it takwini. Takwini versus tashri'i. Don't get scared from this terminology. Let me explain. Takwin has to do with creation, cause and effect. Okay? In other words, when Allah wants something, when Allah wills something, it can either be something that has to come into existence, or no, sometimes He wills something means He wants us to do something. Alright? One of these two. When Allah wills in a way that it has to do with creation, the Quran very clearly says, إِذَا أَرَادَ إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَن يَقُولَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونَ. When Allah wants something, He says, kun fayakun. He says, be, and it is. And of course, we don't even believe that He has to actually verbalize the word be. Or as we see in cartoons, point to something and alakazam, it comes into existence. No, just the fact that He wills it comes into existence. For example, in the story of Prophet Isa, in the story of Mubahala, some of the Christians, they were arguing against our Prophet. They said, but we believe that He's Lord. Why? Because He didn't have a father. What does the Quran say? Inna mathala Isa indallahi kamathali Adam khalaqahu min turab thumma qala lahu kun fayakun. The Quran answers this claim that anyone who comes into existence without a father is going to be deity and God. The Quran answers that. How? It says, the story of, or the example of Prophet Isa, who came to life without a father, is like that of the story of Prophet Adam. The Quran says, we put together some soil and clay or whatever it was, and we said, ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ, Allah said, kun fayakun, gave it life. That's how it is. So Prophet Adam didn't have a mother and a father. So who deserves to be deity? A person who has only a mother, or one who comes out of existence even without even a mother? The point though here is that the verse is saying that when Allah wants something, boom, it happens, it's over. It comes into existence. So you tell me now, when it comes to this type of will of God, that when He wants something to come into existence, it comes into existence. Is there free will here for us? Do we have a choice? No. That thing that comes into existence will come into existence whether it likes it or not. There's no free will here. There's no choosing here. Yeah. Some people think when we talk about free will and we're arguing for free will, some people think that everything has to be free will. No. Everything is against free will here. The only thing that we have free will in, which is very important, which is everything as a matter of fact, but it's still one thing, is our actions and what we do. Free will there 100%. If you take free will from our actions, then the heavens and earth will just collapse. There's no point in creation. That's what we're here for. We have been put in a world of truth and falsehood to make the right decisions using our free will. There's nothing wrong with that. But other than that, me coming into this life, me leaving this world, these are not, and things that happen to me, befall me and all of that, these are things that Allah decides. Yeah, and He wants to see how we're going to deal with them. Of course, there's a lot of details here I'm skipping about free will, and this is not a theology course or anything, so let's skip that. So there's no free will and no choice here with this will of Allah. But then we have another will of Allah, something that Allah wants. And that has to do with those who have choice, those who have free will. Allah will want something to happen through our action, through our choice, and through our free will. That is the irada, the willing of Allah, the wishing of Allah, the wanting of Allah, but it's called tashri'i. They translate that to legislative. Okay, whatever. In other words, He wants me to do salat. The fact that He wants me to do salat, does that force me to do salat? No. But He still wants it and wishes it. I thought when He wishes something, it happens no matter what. That was the takwini will. There's a tashri'i will that leaves us with a choice at the same time. So if I want to, I'll pray. If I want to, I'll fast. If I want to, I'll listen to this boring lecture, right? Here, free will is everything. Alright, so these are two sides of will and willpower and Allah's will and so on. Coming back to what we're talking about now. When Imam Hussein says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ شَاءَ أَنْ يَرَانِي قَتِيلًا, Allah has willed to see me die. Which one of these two is it? Is it the will that Allah has that we won't have any choice? Or no, it's the will that we have choice. As a matter of fact, He tests us with that. It's very obvious that in this case, it's the second one. Allah has willed for me to die, for my children to be killed. مَذْبُوحِينَ, it says. My children to be slaughtered. My women to be taken in shackles. He says, Allah has willed this. That means that this is my duty now. Allah wants me to do this because this is the responsibility. The same way with Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. In the story of Prophet Ibrahim, Allah willed that Prophet Ibrahim's son be slaughtered. Of course, the materialists here, they laugh at the theists, at the believers. They laugh. They say, what kind of command is that? But the Muslimin and the Mu'mineen and the theists, not necessarily just Muslim, they believe this is the highest rank of servitude to Allah, that anything He wants, you do it. And there's always a philosophy behind it. There's always a reason behind His commands, His orders. Sometimes we know what they are, sometimes we don't know. Circling around the Kaaba 7 times for tawaf. Well, I want to do 8. Too bad. I want to do 14 rakat Salatul Fajr because I'm just feeling so spiritual today. He doesn't want that. So, the will of Allah here is what is the criteria. Prophet Ibrahim, same thing. Allah willed that his son be slaughtered. Does that mean he has to now, whether he likes it or not, his hand is going to be moving and slaughtering his son? No. Allah is testing him. See, whatever you have tests, the second form of the will of Allah comes into the picture. The one that He wants something, but He lets you choose. Because if you choose and make the right choice, you grow, and if you make the wrong choice, you don't grow, and you might even go down. So in that story, we have the same thing. Here also, another sacrifice has to be made. Of course, there is one difference between the story of Ibrahim and Imam Hussein. What's the difference? The difference is that in the story of Prophet Ibrahim, one might be able to argue, and it might be safe to say that there was no hidden advantage to the slaughter of Ismail. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the end got in the way of it. Said no, slaughter the ram instead. But in the story of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it had to happen. Why? Because there was a big maslaha, a big advantage behind this. If this great sacrifice wasn't to take place, bad things would have happened. What was the bad thing? Islam would have been gone. So think about it. All of Islam depends on Imam Hussein's sacrifice and movement. Alright? It all depends on that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here, there's an order from Him that this has to happen now. Imam Hussein alayhi salam has a choice. If he wants, he can live up to the responsibility. If he doesn't want, he won't do that. But of course he fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He fears his own actions. He fears Yawm al-Qiyamah. At the same time, we don't even have to talk about fear. He is so in love with Allah, so in love with Akhirah, that he's not going to think twice. And you shall see, inshallah, How it's as if Imam Hussein is in another world throughout his journey. Sometimes when he speaks to people, it's like, it doesn't matter. He wants to make it to where he wants to make it. There's this destination he's striving for. He wants to get there as soon as possible. And then in the end, on Ashura, inshallah we'll read that letter. It's one line that he writes to his brother about him and how enthusiastic he is, how much he looks forward to Akhirah. As if dunya doesn't even exist. Yeah. So for Imam Hussein, this is his responsibility. So when we say, Inna Allah qad sha'a, the same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to pray and fast, that same form of willing is what Allah has regarding his sacrifice. Of course, it's nowhere close to in significance to what he wants from us. I'm not saying that Imam Hussein's sacrifice is the same as Allah wanting us to pray. No. But I'm saying the will of Allah here is that type of will. The one that we can do and the one that we can just go against. But in this case, if Imam Hussein had not fulfilled that, all of Islam was in danger. So this is what Allah wants from Imam Hussein. So don't, please, brothers and sisters, don't have this question ever. The answer is very clear. That why is Allah so mean, as if, na'udhu billah, that He wants to see this happen? No, He doesn't want to see this happen. There's no other choice. There's no other choice but that Imam Hussein goes through this. Yeah, the Muslim Ummah before that, they had a choice. There was other ways out of this. When Imam Ali is this close to the tent of the commander of the opposition in the battle of Siffin, Muawiyah, if his own people had not gotten in his way and he had finished the job of Muawiyah, Imam Hussein's movement might not have been necessary. But it reaches a point where there is no other choice. Yazid, and we covered this last night, it doesn't get worse than Yazid. So he says, that's my responsibility now. Responsibility equals Allah's will. Recite salawat. Moving on to another one of the sayings of our Imam. He's still in Medina. Different people come to him, speak to him, try to discourage him from going, and convince him that it's a bad idea. And of course it's a bad idea. If you're going by materialistic standards, or if you don't know the goal, of course you're going to say this is something that's, I don't see any good in it. They don't see 1400 years later that each and every one of us are sitting here today. And we heard the story of Imam Hussein all our life, every year. More than once a year. It's not just Muharram that we hear this story. We're still here though. We're still here. If I tell you go, what are you doing here? You get upset. The love that we feel here is unmatched. He sees that. But people who don't see this, they're going to tell him certain things. For example, and it doesn't mean they're bad individuals necessarily, no. One of those who came to him and really wanted his best, and wanted the best for our Imam, is his brother Muhammad bin al-Hanafiya. So now you're asking me, Muhammad the son of Hanafiya, if he's Imam Hussein's brother, shouldn't he be Muhammad bin Abi Talib? Bin Ali ibn Abi Talib? The same way we say Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib, we should say he had a brother by the name of Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib, right? So why is it that we are calling this individual, who is the brother of Imam Hussein, we're calling him Muhammad bin Hanafiya? Brothers and sisters, as I said before, the relationship to the Prophet and kinship to the Prophet is something everyone understands. Everyone looks to as a medal of honor. So you're not going to place other people who don't have this medal of honor, you're not going to place them up to par with and use the same title for them as those who actually have such a medal of honor. Imam Hussein, true, he is the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, but who is he also the son of? Fatimah Zahra alayha salatu wassalam. So you tell me, did Abu al-Fadl Abbas ever feel like he can be called Imam Hussein's brother? You tell me. We all know that he wasn't willing to be called that. I'm the brother of Imam Hussein, while he is the son of Fatima, and I am not. So there's a difference between them. To distinguish between these individuals, although they're all sons of Ali ibn Abi Talib, here they would call him by the name of the tribe of his mother, to show that, yeah, at the same time, although he's the brother of Imam Hussein, through the same father, their mothers are different. Hanafiya is the name of a tribe, the tribe of Hanifa bin Jim. I've written here, Bani Hanifa. This is not Abu Hanifa, by the way. Abu Hanifa is somebody else who lived in Imam Sadiq's time. Banu Hanifa, these people that are called the children of Hanifa, the wife of Imam Ali, who gave birth to Muhammad bin Hanafiya. She's from this tribe. So you're going to call her Hanafiya. That means she is associated with the Hanif people. Okay. The Hanif clan, the Hanif tribe. So that's who he is. But they're brothers at the end of the day. Now there's some controversy regarding Muhammad bin Hanafiya. Different controversies. One of them is that later on you have a denomination in the Shia school of thought that is not on the same page as the Imams. And they would associate themselves to Muhammad bin Hanafiya. But that doesn't mean that Muhammad bin Hanafiya called for such a thing. Sometimes you don't even know that other people are doing something in your name. It happens all the time. It's happened to me too. I didn't even think that was that important, you know? So then people come to me, we heard that you like you're supporting such and such thing. I'm like, I didn't even know about that. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, okay, but you know, sometimes that happens. Muhammad bin Hanafiya might have not even known about this. God knows. That's one. Another controversy that surrounds him is why he did not go with Imam Hussein to Karbala. Why did he not leave with Imam Hussein from Medina? There is a huge difference of opinion here, brothers and sisters. I'm not going to spend time on that. Okay? And those who've seen the movie of Mukhtar, there it shows that he was very in favor of Imam Hussein, and there was a reason why he couldn't join the Imam, his illness and so on. Now this is something we'll talk about later as well. There are other times we're going to talk about Muhammad bin Hanafiya. Right now, what concerns us is that he, at the end of the day, loves his brother, Imam al-Hussein. He loves him and wants the best for him. I'm going to share a story with you so that we understand how much he loves his brother. Look at this. In Bihar al-Anwar, there's an account. It says that لَمَّا كَانْ يَوْمٌ مِنْ أَيَّامِ صِفِّينَ, one of those days of the Battle of Siffin, because the Battle of Siffin wasn't like 2 days, it was like months. It was months. One of those days in the Battle of Siffin, دَعَ عَلِيٌّ إِبْنَهُ مُحَمَّدًا, Imam Ali called his son Muhammad. He says, I want you to go and attack the right wing of Muawiyah's army. And I want you to go like harsh, like take them down. Shudda ala al-maymana. Shudda comes from shadid. He's ordering him to be shadid on them, to go hard on the right wing of Muawiyah's army. It says so that it says he went, he fought, he attacked with his companions, and he did do that. He broke that part. He broke them, messed them up, and came back. And Muhammad bin Hanafiya was a valiant warrior, son of Amir al-Mu'mineen. فَكَشَفَ مَيْمَنَةَ عَسْكَرْ مُعَاوِيَةَ ثُمَّ رَجَعَ. He came back to his father, but he, brothers and sisters, I want you to keep this in mind. Battles back then weren't like battles here, where now like you don't even have to be in the battlefield. You can be living like on this side of the globe, and you just control a drone on another side of the world, and you kill people like a coward, you know. Back then, if you were gonna get close to the enemy to try to take them out, you were gonna sustain injuries, probably cuts and scars for sure. So back then, that's how it is. So he goes, he attacks the right side of the army of Muawiyah, but when he comes back, it says he came back and he had fulfilled what his father had ordered him to, but he had sustained cuts and wounds. So he tells them, he says, Al-Atash, I'm thirsty. فَقَامَ إِلَيْهِ. The Imam goes and quenches the thirst of his son. فَسَقَاهُ جُرْعَةً مِّن مَاءٍ ثُمَّ صَبَّ الْمَاءَ بَيْنَ دِرْعِهِ وَجِلْدِهِ. Then the Imam, it says, pours water over his body. Now there's armor and there's skin. He pours the water between the armor and his skin. And it says that it was that water, blood water was coming out. Water mixed with blood was coming out of this armor now. Out of the links and chains that are covering his body. So he's injured now. But look at this. ثُمَّ أَمْهَلَهُ سَاعَةً. Imam Ali gives him some time. أَمْهَلَهُ سَاعَةً. Gives him some time to rest. And then he comes back to him. And he says to him, شُدَّ فِي الْمَيْسَرَةِ. Now I want you to go attack the left side. And so he does so. He goes with his companions again. He attacks the left side. And it shows how strong he was that he's able to do this. Attacks the left side. Once again, causes some damage, comes back. ثُمَّ رَجَعَ وَبِهِ جَرَاحًا. Again he's injured. More. وَهُوَ يَقُولُ الْمَاء. Water. He's very thirsty because when you get wounds and blood starts leaving the body, you get thirsty. People who have been in situations like that, they'll tell you, when blood starts leaving the body, the more blood that goes, the more thirst takes over. I want you to remember that on Ashura. فَقَامَ إِلَيْهِ فَفَعَلْ مِثْلَ الْأَوَّلِ. So they did the same thing. They quenched his thirst and all of that. Then the Imam says, okay, now, شُدَّ فِي الْقَلْبِ. I want you to go straight up in the middle now and fight from the middle after he's all injured and beat up. فَكَشَفَهُمْ. He did so. And he did damage again. ثُمَّ رَجَعَ. But this time, he had too many wounds. وَهُوَ يَبْكِي. And then he's crying now. Muhammad bin Hanafiya is crying. فَقَامَ إِلَيْهِ فَقَبَّلَ مَا بَيْنَ عَيْنَيْهِ. So the Imam kisses him right here. In between the eyebrows. And he says to him, قَالَ فِدَاكَ أَبُوكَ. May your father, Imam Ali, die for you. Be your ransom. So it shows that Muhammad had a high status. But so let's see what he's crying about though. Why he's weeping. You've made me happy, the Imam says. لَقَدْ سَرَرْتَنِي وَاللَّهِ يَا بُنَيَّ فَمَا يُبْكِيكَ. Are you crying because of farah or out of jaza'? You're upset or you're happy because you caused damage? Apparently. فَقَالْ كَيْفَ لَا أَبْكِي وَقَدْ عَرَضْتَنِي لِلْمَوْتِ. How can I not cry while you put me in a place where I was surrounded by death? It's as if you're like trying to kill me or you're trying to get rid of me. You see, but he still did what his father was telling him though. ثلاث مرات, 3 times. I was like this close to death. فَسَلَّمَنِي Allah. But Allah protected me. And every time I would come back, so you give me a chance, you wouldn't give me a chance. But this is the part I want you to pay attention to. هَذَانِ أَخَوَايَ الْحَسَنِ وَالْحُسَيْنِ مَا تَأْمُرُهُمَا بِشَيْءٍ. My brothers Hassan and Hussein are here, but you're not sending them to fight. You know what gives? فَقَبَّلَ رَأْسَهُ. The Imam kissed his head. قال يا بني, oh my son, أنت ابني, you're my son. Muhammad, you're my son. وهذان ابن رسول الله. These two are the sons of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. أفلا أصونهما. Should I not protect these 2 sons of the Prophet? قال بلى. Of course, O father, of course you should. جعلني الله فداك وفداهما. May I die for you, O father, and for these 2 sons. So Muhammad bin Hanafiya loves Imam Hussein. Muhammad bin Hanafiya wants the best for Imam Hussein, that's for sure. Now if there's some controversy surrounding him, that's history. Brothers and sisters, history has no mercy. Alright? You got to get this straight. If someone comes out who is a properly studied, well-versed historian and has an opinion other than that which is mainstream, but we know this person doesn't have marad, doesn't have sickness, he doesn't have a problem, but he has a different opinion, you don't shun that person. Of course, if they're learned, if they know what they're talking about, if they have their proofs. History, that's what it's all about. History is one of those things you have to ask Allah on the Day of Judgment if you want to be sure about it. Because we go to the books, and the books, they have different reports and so on. Anyway, one of those places is here, with Muhammad bin Hanafiya. Why didn't he go with Imam Hussein? We'll talk about that later, inshallah, maybe, when we talk about him in Mecca. Okay. Here he comes to the Imam. He says, "Oh brother, oh Hussein, you want to leave Medina? You are the most beloved of all people. Don't reside in any particular place. If you're leaving, fine. Don't reside in any particular place. Send your representatives all over the Muslim lands to gain bay'ah for you, to gain allegiance for you. If you reside in a specific place, there might be bloodshed, and I fear for your life." So the Imam says to him, "Where do you think I should go?" He says, "Go to Mecca. And if it isn't safe, go from here to there till things become clear and you make the right decision, inshallah." Now here, Imam Hussein, instead of answering Muhammad bin Hanafiya, as I said, you feel like Imam Hussein sometimes he's just not here. He's somewhere else. His heart is somewhere else. His mind is somewhere else. Preoccupied with love of something else. He doesn't even answer anymore. He lets go. He talks about something else. He says, "Oh my brother, if there is no safe haven and place of refuge for me, I will not give my allegiance to Yazid bin Muawiyah." No one was talking about you giving your bay'ah to Yazid bin Muawiyah. What happened? Why is Imam Hussein going back to that? We talked about that last night. He's telling you that you should go somewhere else, live somewhere else. No. It's all here. It's all thinking about what is my responsibility. I got to get away from Yazid, bay'ah. That's what it's all about for me. Why? He told us in the previous sayings we covered. Because the satisfaction of Allah is here. Everything is Allah. Everything. I will not give my allegiance to Yazid bin Muawiyah. It's interesting how he keeps repeating this. Now here they say tears roll down the face of Muhammad. Because Muhammad knows if his brother is speaking like this, he's determined and he has a lofty goal in mind and no one's going to change his mind. So he says, and it's as if the Imam notices that he's upset about this. So he doesn't continue with what he was saying before that. Oh, I'm not going to give bay'ah to Yazid and all of that. He says, "Oh my brother, may Allah reward you the best of rewards." Have you noticed sometimes you're thinking about something else that's super important to you and someone is talking to you. And instead of answering them, you answer them with that which is on your mind, which is of the utmost importance. Then you notice that person's he's not on the same page right now as me. So what do? I come back to what he was talking about so that they don't feel bad. Here the Imam notices. So he says, "May Allah reward you the best of rewards. Indeed you gave good advice and pointed to what is right. I have made my decision to depart for Mecca." I'm not reading the Arabic. This is one of the sayings of the Imam. "Me, my brethren, sons of my brother, and my followers have all prepared for this journey. Their affair is my affair. Their decision is my decision. As for you, O Muhammad bin Hanafiya, you are not to come with me." So some historians will use this line to explain why Muhammad bin Hanafiya didn't come on this journey. "As for you, you are not to come with me. You must stay in Medina and be my secret agent over them, while not withholding anything of the enemy's affairs from me." In other words, send me information about what they're doing, what their next move is, what they have in mind against me. So as the Imam left his brother for the grave of the Prophet again, he could be heard reciting poetry, and I'm going to paraphrase it. It's in Arabic, but I'll paraphrase it. He says, "I am not afraid of the shepherds at daybreak." Imam Hussein leaves his brother Muhammad. He's going towards the great Prophet's grave. Again he goes into that mode, that mode of love. He says, "I am not afraid of the shepherds at daybreak." Now see this poetry that sometimes the Imams, for example, recite. The Imam's situation has nothing to do with shepherds. This is a poem that was recited in a certain scenario by a poet. But then the Imam uses it because of the point that's in it, to make the point for himself as well. He wants to make a point here. "I'm not afraid of the shepherds at daybreak and when I am ambushed. And they shouldn't call me by my name anymore if I give my hand in order to avoid the dangers that threaten my life. Don't call me Hussein if I reach out for bay'ah with Yazid. What does that teach us today, brothers and sisters? One of those who overhears the Imam recite this poetry, he says, when I heard this poetry, I knew the Imam has a very lofty goal and he has a mission that he wants to fulfill. Recite a salawat. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Shuhada, ya Aba Abdullah. Tonight we're going to remember the two sons of one of the greatest madlooms of all time, Muslim ibn Aqil. If the companions of the Imam each were dying, but when they would open their eyes on the battlefield of Ashura and Karbala, when they were opening their eyes, what was the first thing they might have seen? Imam Hussein fighting off those around them, and then their head in the lap of the Imam, and leaving this world seeing the Imam's face as one of the last things they see. Think about it. How much more blessed can one be? How much more blessed can one be? That the last thing that they see before they leave this world is the face of their Imam that they've been fighting for and they're in love with. This is Muslim ibn Aqil, one of the greatest madlumeen of Ashura, of Karbala, of the whole movement of Imam Hussein. He didn't get that chance. He didn't get that chance to see his Imam for the last time, one. And two, he left this world with that guilt that I was the one who wrote letters to Imam Hussein asking him to come to Kufa. So these women and children that are in the caravan of the Imam, if they're going to come, it's because of my message, because I was sure that the Kufans are ready. But Muslim bin Aqil, don't be upset. This was a plan that Allah had and that Imam Hussein executed. The two of these sons, two of the children of Muslim bin Aqil, they are also very madloom. Shaykh al-Saduq narrates in his Amali that these two sons, for some reason, when the Usara and the prisoners of Karbala came, Ubaidullah bin Ziyad isolated these two. Because Ubaidullah bin Ziyad, he barely made it. He was very angry at Muslim. He hated Muslim ibn Aqil because Muslim ibn Aqil was his counterpart in Kufa. And there was a chance that Ubaidullah would be killed and Muslim would be the one running Kufa after that. So I don't know, brothers and sisters. I really don't know. This hasn't been written anywhere that I've seen. But maybe he isolated these two kids because they're the children of Muslim. God knows. And he tells them, his henchmen, to throw them in prison and to go hard on them. Don't give them cold water. Don't give them proper food. And so these kids, these two children, they were fasting in the day and they were praying in the nights. But slowly, almost a year passes, and one of them tells the other one, we're decaying here. If we don't do something, we're going to die. According to this narration. And so this is where they feel like the only way that they can get out of this dilemma is to inform that prison, the one that's taking care of their cell, to tell him, this old man, who they really are. So they tell him, do you know the Prophet? Do you know Ali ibn Abi Talib? Do you know all of these individuals? He says, yes. They say, we are family of this Prophet. We are family of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And this old man gets so upset at himself for going so hard on these children. And he lets them go free. But these kids, where are they supposed to go? In the deserts roaming, while they know that others are going to be after them. So they eventually come to the home of an old lady. She takes them in. They tell her who they are, and she tells them, okay, hide for tonight and leave tomorrow, because my son-in-law is going to probably be after you too. Long story short, brothers and sisters, the son-in-law, this monster, comes home. He finds out that these two kids are there. They say, please promise to us that you won't kill us. He says, I promise. Who are you? They say that we are the sons of Muslim ibn Aqil. He says, you fled death, but you came right into the hands of death. They're looking for you and they want your heads. Each of you is worth 1,000 dirhams. And tomorrow I will take you to Ubaidullah. So he ties them up. On the next day, He orders his slave to go behead these two innocent children. The slave runs away. He can't do it. These are because they tell him who they are. Children and family of the Prophet. This monster tells his own son to finish the job. They don't do it either. He's also afraid because he knows who they are. He says, this is my job. He takes them close to the river. And when these children, they see the blade come out, brothers and sisters, these are kids. And they know it's almost over. When they see the blade and they're frightened, they begin to weep. And they say, please don't kill us. Sell us as slaves. He says, no, I have to get my prize from Ubaidullah. They say, okay, take us alive. He says, no, I have to get close to Ubaidullah through your blood. And through spilling your blood, the same way they spilled the blood of Hussein to get close to Ubaidullah through the blood of Hussein, he wants to get close to Ubaidullah through the blood of these children. So they raise their little hands. They say, Ya Hayyu, Ya Hakim, Ya Ahkam al-Hakimin, judge between us and this monster. So he takes the first one. And he beheads the older one in front of the younger one. Something you don't do for sheep. When you want to slaughter a sheep, you don't slaughter the sheep in front of other sheep. But he does that. And the blood is all over the ground. The second son of Muslim drenches himself in this blood. And he says, I want to meet my Lord with the blood of my brother. To show that we were patient. To show Allah that we stood up and we stood our ground. And he beheads the other one. 2 little heads in the cloth for a reward to Ubaidullah. A few coins. Ahlul Bayt are only worth a few coins. But if that's going to hurt us, brothers and sisters, O sons of Muslim, there was a time when your father was in a worse situation. All thirsty and beat up and torn up by the enemies in Kufa all alone. They took him to the top of Dar al-Imara. They see him weeping and crying. Oh Muslim, if you're going to cry now, you should have thought about this before we captured you. If you knew this was going to happen to you, there's no reason for you to cry. They say he said, I cry not for my life, but for the fact that Hussein is on his way to Kufa. I was the one who told these women and children it is safe for them to come. They take him to the top of Dar al-Imara. The monster that he had injured on the streets while he was fighting is the same one who comes to behead Muslim ibn Aqil. He says, I struck the neck of Muslim once, the head did not sever. I had to strike his neck again for the head to fall from the top of the palace. If that is not all, they push the body after beheading down to the ground. Now they are dragging the bodies of Hani bin Urwa and Muslim through the city and on the streets, only to crucify them before the eyes of the people. لا أضحك الله سن الدهر إن ضحكت وآل محمد مظلومون قد قهروا لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. يا حسين.
Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Brothers, please come forward and lift me up. Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein.
Hussein, don't come to Kufa. Don't come to Kufa. Don't come to Kufa. Hussein, don't come to Kufa. Don't come to Kufa. Don't come to